Welcome everybody back to the Future of Water Theatre from the Bathroom Association. Really pleased that you've been able to join us for what I think is one of the highlights of our programme through the show, and that's a Q&A with Michelle Ogundehin. Welcome, Michelle.
Welcome, thank you. Rather, I'm welcoming you to your own show, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. This is going to be quite a broad-ranging interview. I'm going to go right back to the beginning and ask you about your kind of childhood and whether design was something that kind of interested you right from those earliest days.
Oh, well, it's a brilliant first question because the answer is no. That I did not have the sort of childhood where my parents took me on exotic holidays and we kind of leafed through Holmes magazines or visited bazaars in Morocco or anything like that. None of the above. My parents were far too busy surviving to be interested. My father did build his own sofa at one point out of bits of wood and some foam, and it was fantastically uncomfortable. But somehow or another, I was always the kid that wanted to move things around. I just somehow knew that if you move this here and put that there, it would just feel better. So I was very sensitive to my environment, but it didn't occur to me to go into it as or even that this was a skill until much, much later on.
Well, the follow-up question's got to be then, when did it click? When did it occur to you that actually design was something that could be a career that you pursued?
I think when I was at school, I was, you know those tests they do, whether they're finding out if you're left-brained or right-brained, I would always come straight down the middle. So I did both art and maths. And then, again, my father was kind of like, you have to do a vocational subject when you leave school. So that was medicine, law, or architecture. And so medicine, I was like, way too squeamish. Law just seemed boring. So I was like, fine, I'll do architecture then. And I suppose there I found this place where it's like, okay, this is really interesting to me. How do you express something that you have to experience viscerally, but your only way of expressing it is through two-dimensional paper or drawings or magazine articles or something like that? But it still didn't click that design was my thing, because I used to write a lot as well, and I loved magazines, like passionately. So I sort of segued into those, but because I trained as an architect, I did design magazines. So I worked for Blueprint magazine, actually before that Tate art magazine, and then Blueprint, and then I wrote a letter to Elle Decoration at some point going, oh, I found something I think would be really good for you, because I was just sort of in this, I mean, it's like going all over the place, like I genuinely find shows like this so exciting because, you know, there's a toilet that folds into a cupboard over there and and seeing the pipes and everything behind it, and it's the possibility. And I guess it's the excitement of that, which is what eventually made me think like, wow, you know what? We're missing so many tricks in the way that we surround ourselves, the way that we create environments. And so then I think it clicked with architecture that you're actually shaping the way people experience the world, and that's, you know, in the right hands can be incredibly powerful.
Thinking back kind of specifically to that period at university, you went to one of the most prestigious architecture schools in the country. How did that kind of shape your subsequent career path, and kind of what's that experience like being in that environment?
I'm not sure it was quite so prestigious when I was there, but but it is now. I went to UCL, so in London. You know, there's a lot of my studying that I look back on and I realise I was there and I was doing the work, but the significance of it hasn't been apparent until much, much later. I mean, I think maybe a lot of people experience that. You know you're on the way, but you don't really know where you're going, but you just know, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. So I mean, it was extraordinary to understand what architecture means. That became my pursuit, that it wasn't just about designing buildings, it was about designing environments. And something we'll come to later is there is a Stanford University study that proves that your environment has more power over your susceptibility to become ill than your genetics. So it isn't your genes that determine whether you get ill, it's your environment. And so you take that out a step, that's everything. That's everything that we surround ourselves with. So while now I'm focused much more on the home environment, at that point I was, designing bigger buildings and realizing that we're shaping the way that we live. And I think that was exciting.
That's a really sobering thought, isn't it? That, you know, design can literally be about life and death.
Well, or I like to frame it as that it can be a tool for health if you use it correctly. And that's very much become my mission, that how to help people, how to make you be empowered to understand the choices that literally will support your health rather than sabotage it.
One of the things that when we first approached you about coming along to Installer, that kind of most attracted us to you as a speaker was the diversity of your career. How on earth did you make the leap from being an architect to being an editor?
Yes. I think as a child of the media age, architecture is a very long period of study. You do a 3-year degree, then you're supposed to practice for 2 years, and then you do a 2-year diploma. So, and then only then do you then take professional qualifications to potentially become an architect. So I laboured my way through all of that. I took a couple of years in New York in the middle, but at the end of the diploma, I kind of thought, okay, I understand what this profession is about now, but you know what? I am not going to wait until I am 50 to have actually realised a project, because that's what it seemed like to me. And so at that point I realised I'd always been incredibly passionate about magazines. So I wrote letters. I wrote hundreds of letters to loads of different magazines, and one of them landed on the right desk at the right moment, and I did drawings for them to start off with. But then across the track in the same publishing company was Blueprint magazine. And at that point, I was like, I kind of did train in design. You know, maybe I should write about it. But I was a bit stubborn and only wrote about graphics. So graphics and furniture design. I was like, I don't want to do architecture. And then, as I said, I literally had all this information coming into me as a journalist, that some of it was more consumer-oriented. So I would send it to El Deco, because it's like, well, there's no point in it sitting on my desk. And at some point, an opening came there, and they invited me for an interview. And I'm like, okay. So off I went. And then again, at some point, they needed a new editor, and I'd left to become editor-at-large. And one of my colleagues just said, you should apply. And again, I just thought, okay, why not? And I suppose I've always been, you know, back to your first question about sort of knowing how to move things around in my room, quite intuitive. You know, when these big life choices come up, some things you're like, no. Absolutely no, this doesn't feel right. Other things, I've just thought, okay, why not? Let's try it. I've not done that before. And if it works, brilliant. So I went into the interview for editor of El Deco with this is what I would do. If they don't want to do that, well, then I'll be the wrong person. But they were kind of like, oh, okay.
I often think some of the most interesting careers work like that, where it's kind of like just winding and not necessarily any defined track to start with. Is that advice that you'd give to perhaps people in the audience about kind of almost never saying no?
Well, I think intuition is something that whispers, and the world is quite noisy, and there's a lot of pressure of what we should do, what we must wear, what we must buy, the trends and the things we should follow, and they're all shoulds. But I think if you're able to, at some point, just take a moment and go, yeah, but what do I want to do? Where do I feel drawn? What compels me? Then I think you can start to hear that whisper. Because I think, truthfully, we all know when we're on the wrong track, whether it's a job or a partner or a place or a time in life, you know. But we don't want to hear it, do we? Because we're like, no, they're great. Or the job has got great benefits, or no, but it's got good schools, or whatever. You know, we make all these excuses to ourselves, but we know. And I think the further you keep going along one of those paths, the further you're getting away from the place where you'll actually be happy. So I guess I would encourage everyone to listen out for the whisper, because the quicker you pivot, the quicker you'll be back on track. And I would apply that to absolutely everything.
I think that's fabulous advice. We're right in the heart of Hall 4 here at Installer Show, with bathroom brands all around us in the Bathroom Association Theatre. What to you is a great bathroom space, and kind of what transforms it from just being very functional to being nurturing?
Oh, I think that's a brilliant question. And I actually reread the chapter in my own book to think, what do I feel about bathrooms? And I'd written there that at the time that I wrote it, so maybe a couple of years ago, bathrooms were going down the path that kitchens have gone, where, kitchens were getting bigger and bigger and more complicated with gadgets and whizzies and wazzies and whatever. And it was getting far away from the fact that you need a kitchen to cook in. And so I was looking at bathrooms, and they were becoming, temples to serenity and sanctuary and wellness spas. And it's just like, but this is way over the head of most people. Most people have a room that's, nowhere near even as big as that bee. So I like a bathroom that is fit for purpose, but I encourage people to not leave all their decorative knowledge at the door. And in that, quite often they're very associated to the bedroom. So it's like, so in your bedroom, you wouldn't think twice about introducing colour, wallpaper, softness underfoot, curtains. And all of this can happen in your bathroom too. I mean, I used to have full-length velvet teal curtains in my bathroom, because if it's adequately ventilated, this is not a problem. There are manufacturers now that will create wallpaper that you can put in the back of the shower cubicle. But I think people tend to think they get maybe overwhelmed by all the plumbing and the pipe stuff, and all the decorative sense goes out the window. So I have always wanted to encourage people to decorate it like the rest of your house. Let it be one step on from the bedroom. And don't forget those touches of luxury and comfort, and the changing the textures and materials. So things like teak is naturally water resistant. Why could you introduce that? Not this sort of very cold clinical spaces with white tiles, and then there's godforsaken spotlights in the ceiling. It's like, we're not performing surgery in there. They're just horrid. So
what I love about working within the bathroom industry is that, and this kind of talks to what you're saying, is the marriage of the technical and the aesthetic. And I know there are some manufacturers out there that are kind of innovating new sorts of things like toilet frames and so on, to kind of make spaces more appealing to the user. Is there anything that you've seen which you think, we should be making more use of this?
Well, I did just see something on, is it Mirror stand, which was fits underneath that dead space in the bath, which is basically kind of like a heat pump for your water. So it's recycling and reheating your water, not recycling the water, but taking the heat out of the water, so you're using less energy, and it's slots into the dead space under the bath. But there's also things like, I'm looking at even, say, this installation room. I was having a conversation earlier about, like, wall hung. I love everything to be wall hung. And the point, again, is if your bathroom is as big as this bee, the bigger your floor that you can visibly see, the bigger it will feel. So if you wall hang everything, not only can you clean it better, but you'll see the whole perimeter of the floor. But it's also about then this becomes a useful shelf, box the whole thing in, make a feature of it, but then all your pipes are then hidden behind that. So I think the homes that work the best are the ones where you marry the tech with the beauty. So, which is why I love coming here and seeing, that I haven't just got a stand with showing me the fancy shower head. I can see all the pipes behind it as well, because I think the more any consumer can know about what's going on behind it, the easier it is for you to troubleshoot. But also then you've got that understanding. It's like, actually don't hammer a nail into that wall because there is a pipe behind it. Do you know what I mean, though? It's like, it's an extra depth of understanding.
And this is why, for me, the plumbing trade is such a tremendous one. You've got to have that depth of understanding in order to really do the job for your customers.
But a little bit of knowledge is also good. Way back when I actually did a beginner's plumbing course, because I wanted to know enough. I mean, I can change a washer on a tap. I can't fit a bathroom. But it's just like to just understand, really. But then it is also, because then I think when you understand, you can actually have a conversation properly with your plumber. Like, I'm not trying to do your job. I didn't train. But it is important to me to know where the pipes go, and I need to be able to access them. So could you not, run it all over like this? I want you to take it round the edge. So I know there'll be more pipe work, but could you do it like this? But then also things like where those pipes are coming in and out of the external fabric of your building, that needs to be properly draft sealed. So, if you're there, you'll be aware. You don't want them with a can of expanding foam, doing it really quickly, and then the plasterboard is over.
And that kind of makes you more of a savvy customer in engaging with your tradespeople, right? Because you can talk their language, you can perhaps provide a bit of pushback when necessary.
Well, I think it's always like you're not trying to be the plumber, you're not trying to do their job, but it is your home. you want to be an active participant in it. And it's not that you don't trust them, but you just want to understand how it's all working, where it's all fitted, and then just to, be a second pair of eyes, because once it's all covered over and they've whooshed off and you've paid that bill, and then you start seeing water, it's too late, isn't it?
Michelle, I'm going to ask you about your job now.
Okay.
So you've described yourself as a home therapist.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means and what it means in kind of practical terms to someone that would engage someone like yourself?
Yes. I came up with the idea of homes therapist because I feel that my job is to help the person or empower people, so consumers, homeowners, normal people, to develop their own sense of style. It's not for me to tell you what to do. It's not for me to go, these are the colours, this is the thing, this is the brand. It's to draw it out of you. So in the same way that a therapist doesn't go, okay, your problem is this, and you need to do this, it's to get you to understand what the issue is. But it's also because I approach homemaking in a truly holistic fashion. So it's not just about the decor. The decor is almost the last thing that I consider. It's about how do you want to feel, what is it that you want your home to do for you, and who do you want to be? Because when you answer those questions, then we can start talking about kind of the colours, materials and things that will give you that lift. And not to forget the whole side about the healthy home. So we're trying to not introduce anything that's toxic. And also, keep your home clean and greener as possible.
Is that kind of consultative approach, almost a therapist approach, something that you've always done, or is that something that's evolved through your career?
No, it's evolved. I mean, I think it's only been in the last couple of months. I changed it on my Instagram because I was like, you know what, this is what I am. And I'm launching something shortly that will provide people with the ability to interact with me in a community environment one-on-one as for coaching, because I think that's the best way to encourage what I want to do, because at the moment a lot of the ways I communicate are sort of inherently passive, like it's all out there, but you've got to choose to read it. Whereas I thought, actually, I want to do more of this type thing, and to really, because then you're walking the walk with other people that are also doing it, but also it's a more vital way to convey the messages.
Michelle, we're about halfway through the interview. Are you okay to take a couple of questions from the audience at this stage?
Yeah.
But before we come to audience questions, just want to give a shout out to CAMP, who are sponsoring this session.
Yeah.
Ashley, can you give the crowd a wave from CAMP? If anyone wants to talk about that point around concealed systems as an example, or creating more space in the bathroom, Ashley's your guy. So do go and have a chat with him afterwards. Jane's got the roving mic. Is there anyone that would like to put a question to Michelle at all? Or have we got a truly shy audience? Yeah, Emma. Oh, over there, Jane.
Thanks, Michelle. It's really interesting. Are there any big, other than kind of have space, big design don'ts? Like the things you just shouldn't do
In a bathroom specifically?
In your bathroom specifically.
Spotlights. I can't bear them. I can't bear them anywhere in any house. You're allowed 2 over the bath for cleaning. But that's it. But literally, it's like you're not performing surgery in there. I think they're deeply unflattering, and it's a horrible ambiance. And a bathroom, in terms of your whole home, it's where you get naked. It's where you become your most vulnerable. So I think it needs to be a gentle space. And lighting is obviously one of the best ways to do that. But it's also a way to add, some beauty. You need, I always think any room needs a combination of overhead lighting for ambience and task lighting for the jobs in hand. So beautiful lighting around a mirror. And then, I used to have like a kind of crystal decanter shade in my bath. And then, yes, the godforsaken spotlights above the bath, literally for when you want to clean it. But other than that, no carpet, definitely, for obvious reasons. Absolutely always buy white. Ceramic ware. I'm sorry for anyone that makes coloured ones, but you will have a bigger choice, wider repertoire, easier to change, and I just think it looks beautiful. And you introduce the colour and the softness in other ways. Do I have any other thing? Other than that, I think almost anything goes. I think the key thing is to remember to introduce all the stuff that you would have in your toolbox for any other room and not think that you can't do it in a bathroom. So, yeah.
That's so interesting, the point about colour, because I was almost expecting you to say the opposite of that. So we do see a lot of the more designery-led shows, lots of coloured sanitary ware out there, but you're saying...
I did see some very beautifully coloured, like, little basins back there, but just no. There was a big trend for everything went black as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But no. It's the same with towels. Towels, toilet roll, ceramic ware should all be white.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any other questions from the audience for Michelle? We'll ask you again towards the end of the session. Right, let's kind of continue with our discussion as we planned it. You mentioned just towards the tail end of that previous answer about toxins. Yeah. I know this is a real kind of passion topic for you. We're kind of hearing quite a lot of noise at the moment around PFAS within our industry, and trying to better understand where it exists in our industry and in the water path. Yeah. Tell us why that's such an issue that bothers you.
It'd be pretty hard to do plumbing without plastic pipes, so I'm just going to skip past that. I don't think that's the issue. But for example, I do not drink water out of plastic bottles because 2 reasons. One, it's plastic. If you don't buy it, they don't produce it. But 2, although I think they took BPA out of a lot of things, which is the chemical that makes plastic bendy, it was just replaced with something else. And in normal conditions, this is not a big deal. But if you left that bottle in your car or out in the sun, those chemicals leach into the water. And while that bottle alone is not going to finish you off, it's just that, many of us, maybe we're sleep deprived, we're stressed, we're not eating as well as we don't, lots of other things. Maybe your nutritional intake isn't as good. All these little things start to build up, and that becomes what I call your toxic load. And very simplistically speaking, your body is incredibly designed to dispatch most of it all by itself. We are creating cancer cells in our body every single day, and your body will deal with it, and that's fine. But that's when your body is, hydrated and nutritioned and et cetera, et cetera. But if your toxic load goes over the limit of what your body can cope with, and that will be different for different people, that is where illness will start. It's like that little chink that allows it to get in. And so my attitude to toxins is where there's an obvious toxin and there is an alternative, take the alternative. Let's just do all the bits we can to lower our load. And in many places, the horse is bolted. But in your home, that's your little corner of the world. That's where you have agency. And I encourage people to do as much as possible because these little things, they really do add up.
So what are the practical steps for the different options that people have to make their homes cleaner, healthier, less toxic environments?
Well, in a bathroom, it is much more about what you put on your body. So one of the things that I think always shocks people is perfume. Probably the more expensive, with the fancy bottles and the glorious packaging, it's a chemical concoction. There's nothing natural in it whatsoever. And the majority, specifically women, we spray it here. What is the highest cancer in women? Breast cancer. It's like literally you are spraying chemicals on your body. Candles as well. So paraffin wax candles, the ones you buy cheaply from everywhere. Not only is paraffin wax like you might as well stick your head in the garage, it is a byproduct of the petroleum industry, but the scent in it is probably unnatural as well. So that's another chemical. And so, often we would light a candle in the bathroom because we're trying to be relaxed, but you're surrounding yourself basically in a kind of noxious cocktail. So there's little things like that I would encourage people to go, you know what, there are alternatives and they don't have to cost more money.
So, that's altering behaviours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of home improvements that you can make to just improve the environment that you're living in?
I think paint would be one of the biggest ones. There has been a turn towards greener paints, and they say they're low VOC. Low isn't good enough. You need trace VOC because, again, it's all the stuff that you can't see. So I'm not talking about the kind of dander and dirt and cigarette pollution or anything like that. I'm talking about the invisible toxins. So there's the VOCs, so volatile organic compounds that will come out of a synthetic carpet. They will come out of the painted wall. They will come out of the glues that we use and things. And we used to think that they only off-gassed, like when you are painting it, the smell that you can smell immediately. But that is not true. They will continuously off-gas. And the thing is, everything off-gasses to some extent. An apple off-gasses. That's the smell that you can smell. But that's a natural, what's coming out of that is natural. And I think it's the 7 persistent compounds that linger in our environment and stay in your body, so that bioaccumulative, are all from things like paint and glue and all man-made, man-manufactured things. So I think the easiest way to think of it is to introduce only natural materials in your home. So real wood, not MDF. Wool carpet, not a synthetic carpet. Trace VOC paints like Grafenstone, not the cheap stuff that you'll get in the supermarket. But also something was good. One of the biggest things as well is the fire retardants that's sprayed on furniture. And unfortunately, the UK has one of the highest uses of fire retardants in Europe, if not worldwide, because it's mandated by law. And yet there is proof that, and it's the same in like insulation panels, drenched in fire retardant, the ones that you buy from B&Q or from, anywhere you can buy them off the shelf, that they are more toxic than the fire that they're designed to prevent.
And this is the most common source of PFAS in the environment as well, isn't it? Where firefighters have had to go into an environment to spray the firefighting foams around. So,
But there are naturally fire-resistant materials like wool. So you can upholster a sofa with wool, or your mattress with wool and other materials as well. And you don't need to spray it, but we do it by default. And yet literally they've tested, like, not only will the fire retardant sofa go up quicker, because it doesn't stop it burning, it just slows it down, but the smoke that it gives off will kill you before the fire will. I mean, it's, let's not dwell on it too much, but it's the insulation panels in places like Grenfell, that's what caused the deaths. Yeah. And that's by law. They've got that fire retardant. But again, there are alternatives. But this is something that I don't think enough people know about, certainly on a consumer level. It's something that I'm about to start work on a new home, hopefully, mortgage and everything giving. And I want to really try and share all of this information and all the stuff that you think maybe is boring, but it's like, actually, this stuff is really important.
So you're going to be looking around the show looking for ideas for the new place?
Absolutely. I need 2 new bathrooms. Thank you very much.
I'd like to hear that. Yeah. All the more new bathrooms, the better. Yeah. Looking at your book, Happy Inside, tell us about that and kind of what's the sort of message that you're trying to get across in that book?
I love that you've done so much research. I would say that my book is my entire philosophy in one volume. So it starts with the idea of, it asks you as a reader to consider writing your own eulogy, which you might think, okay, what has this got to do with interiors? But the point is, who do you want to be? When you know who you want to be, then you can reverse engineer your home to help you create that person. And once you know that, then you can start thinking about decoration. But far too many people, I think, waltz in going, right, I need to redo the house. What's on trend? What's the latest thing? Let's get all the magazines. And it's like, but that has nothing to do with you. Like, you're just picking. I mean, I do think there's a way to, find the threads of your taste by going through magazines. But again, that's the home therapist thing. I want to encourage you, but what do you want? How do you want to feel? Who do you want to be? And then we'll create the environment that enables that supports that reinforces that. And that, to me, is the only way to begin. And yet often I'm asked, so what are the latest trends? Or where do you get this from? And it's like, it's not relevant.
Yeah. So are you quite disparaging in the notion of
trends are marketing. Yeah. It's literally, there's ways to shift stuff. The only trends I'm ever interested in are those bigger societal shifts. So like the need to be greener, or, the things that actually have real resonance. And I mean, I say this having worked for 13 years in the magazine industry, where, we would do the trend of the month.
It's all about trend, right?
Well, completely. Yeah. But then people would go, but last month you told me it was this. And it was like, but it's your choice. I am showing you what's out there, but you have to choose.
In one of your earlier answers, you sounded quite disparaging almost about these
Uh-oh.
ideas of bathrooms as zen spaces and wellness spas and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm going to kind of come back to that. And to what extent do you think the bathroom is a bit of an unappreciated, understated place within the home, and what's its potential to
Oh, no, yes.
be a happy place?
Yes, no, thank you for letting me qualify that. You do want your bathroom to be a sanctuary. You do want it to have some element of serenity and a place you can retire to. But it's just that we mustn't forget that you also just need it to shower in and clean your teeth and get the kids ready. And it's just that at one point, the trends, if you went to Milan, there were these epic-sized rooms with, a single kind of carved African stool and then this like sort of 4-foot rainfall shower, which, was amazing. But it's completely unreachable for most people and impractical. And most people just want to maybe upgrade the bathroom that they have already. But I think, yes, they can become a bit of the forgotten space. I think once you've grappled with all the plumbing and the pipes, it can be a bit overwhelming for people. And so I guess I try and keep it very simple, which is like, carry through the decor, wall hang everything, and, when we're boxing in, make it useful, make it beautiful. Don't forget that a bathroom can also be beautiful, but there are canny ways to make a smaller space feel bigger and feel more luxurious. It can even be little things like, if you buy an old decanter, which you can pick up for like a $5 or something, and then decant your bubble bath into that. How much prettier does that look than, some horrible plastic bottle?
Wait, question which I wanted to ask you is about how the brands that you see all around us here in the theatre. So you've got Monty there, but also the big brands like Bristol and Workwood. What can they do to innovate to make bathrooms a even better place for wellness?
It's a really good question because you don't want innovation for innovation's sake. Like, let's add more twirly bits and twinky bits and curly bits and too much tech. I think, I look around me and often I think I just want it simpler. I want it simpler and practical. But there are things like whenever I tell people to install a bath, I always say, actually pull it a good 10 centimeters away from the wall, because then you can make yourself a nice ledge. And that's where you can put that beautiful decanter. But what if the bath actually had that ledge built in? Because quite a lot don't, do they? Or sinks that are not designed for a cabinet to go underneath it. You need the cabinet underneath the sink. And otherwise, again, it's this huge amount of wasted space. So I think we need to think about the kind of user journey and make it as easy as possible for people, but also simple. Simple, simple, simple.
Yeah, so keep it simple. It is possible to overthink things as well as a manufacturer.
Well, I think it must be very difficult. A bath is a bath is a bath. How much do you want to do to it? But I understand if you keep just producing the same bath, how do you invigorate? How do you keep sales? But then I think it is actually, could you the thing I saw before with the sort of the heat pump to recover the energy? Could that all be integrated into a bath? So in fact, I don't have to buy two separate things. I can just buy the one thing. I don't know. I'm a little out of my depth on that one. But I think maybe one of the things that would help people the most is to show me the products within an environment. This is a slightly different show, but maybe in a more consumer show, I want to see the bathrooms. Let's say something that, IKEA does so well, because they do the room sets. And I think we mustn't underestimate how few people can imagine the whole room. When I was selling my house, at one point I took all the furniture out because we'd had to move already. And I thought, well, it's fine, isn't it? Everyone they can imagine their own furniture. But apparently 97% of people cannot walk into an empty space and imagine it with furniture in. And so when I moved half the furniture back, it sold within 3 weeks. And so I think there is something about that show me the environment, but show me it in a realistic way.
I think that really speaks to some of the value that the merchant showrooms and the independent showrooms on the high street can add into the experience of buying a bathroom. So they're the places where you can go and see these great room sets.
Exactly. But then, show me the curtains, show me the beautiful decanter as well, show me the gorgeous tiles, introduce the colour and that environment. And then I think it's about educating people to know that actually, if you did want to change your toilet, it's not such a nightmare. It can be done.
In terms of kind of acoustics and we've already touched on lighting, but air quality as well. How can those different things all contribute to a genuinely kind of therapeutic environment in the home?
Well, it's getting a little bit techie for me, but I mean, it is, and that's when I talk about the home as a holistic endeavour. I think all of those things have to be taken into account.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether we're talking heat pumps and, the air recirculation, I mean, but the tricky bit is if you're building from scratch, then brilliant. You can consider all that stuff. I think the big area that we're going to have to focus a lot more on is retrofitting. So I've got my leaky Victorian house. How do I insulate it better? How do I upgrade the bathroom and make it more efficient or more energy saving?
And that's for our industry, I think, a huge opportunity because while we maybe build 150,000 homes a year, there's 27 million out there existing that need to undergo that transformation. So I think that's a great kind of call to arms. Can we move now to your kind of most recent television career? And you've done grand designs, you've done interior design masters. What kind of TV project has kind of most piqued your interest? And tell us some stories from that.
Okay. Well, TV again was one of those things that I started doing grand designs because I was editing Elle Decoration, and quite often they ask editors to do what's called a talking head thing. So they're maybe doing a show about the Bauhaus and they want someone to come on and just say a few lines about it. And again, I thought, well, that would be fun. It gets me out of the office. So I would go and do a few of those. And then that led to grand designs. And then when I left Elle Decoration, that's actually when the opportunity for Interior Design Masters came up. And so again, I was like, well, why not? I haven't tried that before. But in fact, I've actually got in process or out for hopeful commission a project that is much more about all the things that we're talking about. So whether it is retrofitting or the kind of understanding the link between our homes and air pollution or asthma or our health. So I'm really hoping actually that that's going to come off. So because then I think I'm really educating. So at the moment, Interior Design Masters is enormous fun. And I think it's empowering people to have a go and try different things and to have, all the different ideas and enthusiasms and even to consider interior design as a profession. But it's not really ticking my mission boxes.
So Richard Osman claims that Interior Design Masters is more important culturally than Citizen Kane. I mean, that's pretty laudable, isn't it? I mean,
that's pretty heady.
Pretty heady. But what it sounds like you want to do is educate as well as entertain. It's great entertainment, but kind of how is that the show that you talked about that's in commissioning at the moment? How will that deliver the information that's going to make a difference? This
is always the tricky bit, which is why it takes a while, is that no one wants to be bashed over the head with these things. No, we turn to television for escape, for entertainment, to feel like, oh, everything's not so bad. And we don't want to switch on the box and be told, oh, my God, your carpet could be killing you. So the challenge is, how do you get that advice across in a way that is still entertaining and isn't scary? But then at the same time, I talked with a lot of people and they said, no, you should actually go on and go, your carpet could be killing you. Because if we look at the stats for chronic disease, the graph is going like this. And I do think that it's because, this is what started all my research, was like, what are we missing? Because, what are we missing? It can't just be, when we talk about well-being, we think of exercise and nutrition and drinking lots of water. It's like, but what are we missing? And I think what we were missing is our home. And that there are stats as well that say that most people's homes are more polluted inside than a busy street corner outside. And I think that needs to be addressed.
It's such a challenge, isn't it? Finding the right balance between absolutely terrifying everybody and kind of just motivating actions that's going to make their lives incrementally healthier.
Well, but exactly, it's great because also people just want their homes to be pretty and they're busy and they're, but I mean, I'm not sure yet that I found the way to do it. I mean, that's what we're working on at the moment, because I do think it's incredibly important.
Interior Design Masters, jokes aside, I think Richard might have been going a bit OTT, but it's been a huge hit.
Yeah.
What is it that you think is resonating with audiences about that show?
Probably Alan.
Yeah.
I think it's.
You can dish the dirt on Alan, by the way.
No,
He's terrible to work with.
There is no dirt. He is exactly as he presents. You know, there is. I would love to say, oh my God, he's an absolute monster off screen, but he's not. He's not at all. He's exactly as he comes across, and he's the sweetest, loveliest man, and incredibly bright to be able to think that quickly. But I think what people love about it is the journey. It's the understanding. It's that bit where they realize that through design, these people are telling their stories. Yeah. Excuse me. And yeah, hang on. Sorry. Got a tickle. We learn about people through the show. And you see that bit where someone doesn't quite believe in themselves or they don't quite know what their style is. And then they see other people and something clicks and they grow in confidence. And we... Oh, sorry. I'm spilling a bit of fluff. I think. And I think you grow with them and you start to kind of, know who these people are. And you're just like, oh my God, is he going to be on the sofa again? Or has he got it? Or the person that comes in and they're super confident, they think they know everything. I'm guaranteed they'll be the first people to fall. So
the thing I love about it is, whilst it's a competition, there is a great deal of camaraderie around it, and I think it's quite human and nice to see on the television. But it's a great place for ideas as well. Let's be honest.
It's a great place for ideas, and they become very. It's a very intense. Oh my God, so annoying. It's like I've got a little.
Oh no.
I can't take your water because it's in a plastic bottle. There's now a huge WhatsApp group where all of the designers that have ever been on the show keep in touch with each other. But it's an incredibly intense masterclass in interior design.
Yeah.
I mean, we're filming right now season 7. So after here, I'm on my way to look at what they've done for their second project. And, I will send someone home tomorrow. That's the end of their dream, as it were. So it's harsh, but it's competition.
Harsh, but they all learn something and go on to clearly kind of take forward their passions, don't they? It's great to see. I want to ask you about your collaborations. You've got some really great collaborations with the likes of Ruggable, Made, and for the KBB industry, Magnet as well, which is really interesting. Tell us a little bit about those.
Some of those are a little bit older, but say I've also done a collaboration with Graph and Stone, so that's very much in line with my mission because they are the cleanest, greenest, most certified paint manufacturer worldwide. And so for them, I developed a palette of colours. But what I wanted to do again was, all paint companies do different palettes. But I was like looking at those and thinking, well, they're lovely colours, but they don't work together. I still don't know what to put with this colour or what to put with that colour. So I developed a palette of 16 colours, which are all designed to work with each other. Any which way you want to combine them, they will work. So again, it's about making it easy for people. So it's like, green is cleanest paint, no smell, no VOCs or trace. And also, I've done all the hard work for you. You can literally pick any of these colours and I guarantee they'll work together. So there's things like that. So with Ruggable, I did the edit. So you're looking for the timeless pieces, the pieces that you will take from room to room that you will keep forever, hopefully. And, there's thousands and thousands of rugs on their site, but I picked out, I think, again, 16 or something.
Earlier on, you talked about softness underfoot within the bathroom, but absolutely no to carpet for understandable reasons. Ruggable, actually, there is potential for using their product in the bathroom?
Maybe. I mean, the only thing is that they're not natural fibres. So I use them in my own home in the hallway, in the lounge, and I have a rather elderly, slightly incontinent dog. So they're worth their weight in stone for those because the point is they're machine washable and they're completely stain proof and stuff. So I think it's about using them in a way that's appropriate. Personally, I wouldn't use it in a bedroom because you're with your bare feet and I think you want something more natural. Besides up there, I prefer to have a full carpet. But I think the impact of a rug can be extraordinary. I mean, a real game changer in terms of changing the mood of a rug and a very good entry level for someone who's dabbling perhaps in colour?
My final question to you, Michelle, I'm going to have to backtrack on badly because I was going to ask you what trend you're most excited about. But given that earlier answer where we were not interested in trends at all, perhaps I'll change that to be what innovation are you most excited about within the home? And perhaps maybe longer, slightly arching trends.
I think that anything that can make using less energy easy for the consumer has got to be the biggest trend. I think we need to kind of get realistic about the fact that for many, many people, if you talk about climate change, it's like, woo, 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 don't really know, I'm not sure it's affecting me, I can't do anything as an individual. I think we have to accept that many people feel that way. But if we turn it the other way around and go, how about things to help you save energy, which will save you money? So, and those things are important, or the health implications. So maybe I don't get you not buying your plastic bottle because it's plastic, but I say to you, actually, you don't want your water with a side order of chemicals. Buy it in a can, buy a flask, buy a water filter. And then also you've bought once. So over the long run, again, you'll save money. I think we need to encourage people to make those sort of switches so they kind of go, okay, I see what I'm getting out of it. And then also to empower people to go, actually, you as an individual do make a difference. Because if you do it and you tell someone else and then they do it, that is people power. If you stop buying from someone because every time you buy something, it's a vote for that brand to stay in business, they will eventually go out of business. But at the moment, the big brands, very big brands, they're behemoths, aren't they? They've got all the power, they think they have, and they'll put all the greenwashing stuff out there. And I think it's for people like me to try and puncture some of that and just go, I'm sorry, but it's not true. But to offer the alternatives, because there's no point constantly pointing fingers and go, don't do this, don't do that. No one wants to hear that. Life is busy and stressful. But if I say to you, like, actually, how about this? Or even better, I'm trying to work on those sort of collaborations where I mean, this is a silly example, but what if I made flasks? And so I could say, actually, have one of these. Here, you can have one. And I can make it in a way that costs £3, less than your bottle of water. I think that's the way that people like me can start to help. Or it's showing how to do a beautiful bathroom. Or the fact that when I renovate, I am going to, create the content out of it and show me doing it and getting it wrong, maybe, and learn from my experience. So one of my taglines is always, I do the research so that you don't have to.
Well, that's been really inspiring, Michelle. I'm going to give a final opportunity for members of the audience to ask any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, gentleman at the front. You sure this time? Yeah.
Thanks very much. Nice to meet you and see you, Michelle. One of the questions that me and Robert, we develop property in the UK, so we try and do the design, try and implement and make changes, and again, go for it.
Just hold it a bit closer.
Go for the changes and try and implement new things to change how people feel when they get into a property. In your opinion, how do you think you want to feel when you open that door and you want to feel at home? Because we designed the space from scratch, from color to textures to, design. How do you want people to feel, or how do you want to feel when you get into a property?
I think that's a brilliant question. Thank you. Obviously, it's going to be different for different people, but I think most people, especially at the moment, want to feel safe. They want to walk through their door, step over the threshold, and literally feel their shoulders drop and go, okay, I'm home, I'm safe, this is my little corner of the world. This is where I get to be me in all my glorious imperfection. And so that's why I really try and encourage people, like, if your style is purple polka dots and glitter, then go for it. Please don't let anyone tell you that you can't do that, because this is your home. So I think it's to empower people and empower the creativity, empower the space making, empower the idea that home actually can be that powerful. I think that would be the key thing, that this is not fickle, it's fundamental. Environment matters. Environment is everything. And when you get it right, it'll also make you healthier.
Yeah, we totally agree. So one last question is, in terms of trends, as we said, you said, we're not into the trend of what's now out there. one of the things we try and do is create the space, try and decorate it the way people feel how that can be if they have their own bed, they've got their own kitchen, their own, cutlery, whatever. Do you think that's quite important when making a property for somebody to come and see, yes, I can rent these or I can buy these of you?
Well, that's always a tricky thing because you have to imagine the client, don't you? And you can't be quite sure who you're designing for. So, and I imagine as well that you don't want to be too excluding. But I think we can introduce texture because we are sensorial beings. We are primal beings. We need to be able to reach out and touch things and feel like our home can give us a hug. So perhaps you could introduce the texture on the wallpaper underfoot, but then they can be recolored. So you allow the personalization. So I think maybe that would be the thing, that there are so many fantastic wall finishes and coverings that you can introduce these days to sort of add that kind of just sense of pleasure, really, visual pleasure, exactly. Yeah.
I'm really sorry we're running out of time, but I want to thank Michelle for giving us so much of her time. We're on your way to be on location as well, so thank you so much. Thank you to Siam for sponsoring the session, and thanks for joining us here in the Future of Water Theatre. Put your hands together, please, for Michelle Ogundehin.
Thank you to you too.